There are three basic types of hierarchy. They move in a form from simple to complex. And the idea here is that when you have fairly simple information, there's not too much of it, you want to use the simplest forms. There's a kind of intermediate form, and then there's a complex form. So the more complex your information is, the more complex the visual form of hierarchy you need. So if we move from simple to complex, we'll start with simple. A nest is taking elements and literally nesting them inside another element. It's like little birds' eggs. Nests, the most basic form of nest that you've seen all over the place is the block border. So if we have an element, my stuff, on a page, it's got a title, we've put a block border around it, and then we include some data inside. That block border is a form of a nest. It's meant to literally nest the data inside the larger wrapping element. Nests are the simplest form because, as you might already guess, visually, once the data starts to get larger or more complex, it's very hard to use nesting to effectively organize it. If we have 3 elements, like this, putting them inside a larger element is not that complicated. If we have 300 elements or 3,000 elements, then creating a visual hierarchy using nesting becomes incredibly complex, or it requires a huge amount of space, which most of the time print and screen designs don't have. When we look at web pages or even software, we will often see nesting in things like menus, where the pull-down menu has a rectangle that nests all of the elements and perhaps a tab at the top with a title. That outer border nests the information inside so that visually we have a sense of that relationship. Again, a fairly simple, small amount of information, the nest works very well. The second type of hierarchy is called a tree. Trees attempt to organize data in much the way a tree would, starting with a trunk and breaking out into branches, and further breaking those branches out into smaller branches, often what are called leaves. Trees can do quite a good job of organizing data that is of intermediate complexity. You'll see that we have a parent, a set of children, a parent, another child. So we get a sense of that relationship. In this particular tree example I've drawn, we have a left to right orientation. We could just as easily build a tree top to bottom. We could even build one from bottom to top in the way that nature does, with the trunk at the base and moving the leaves and branches upward. The problem with that idea, right, is that the general concept of left, right, top, down would make it a bit confusing, but we could still do it. Intermediate designs like this, using the tree form, are very useful for things like organizational charts, for mapping out, say, every position at an institution or a company. Medium levels of complexity can be mapped out using the tree form. Stairs are incredibly useful hierarchies because they can incorporate an infinite amount of information without losing their visual structure. Stairs, at their simplest, make use of left to right and top-down orientation, which basically means that every time you drop down a level, you go to the left and down. So we have parent number 1, child 1, child 2, child 3, and so forth. as you can see, no matter how far I go, I can always incorporate a new level of information onto infinity. And because we have a page structure where I could go page down, page down, page down, I can always incorporate one new level. The most common place where we see stairs in our everyday life is in software that has a file system. So if you think about your computer, whether you use Linux or Mac or Windows or some other operating system, if you imagine the file structure of your computer, you open the window where they have the little file folders, and there are little plus signs along the way. And each level, right, is a particular set of files. Now, when I open this folder, there are going to be a new list of files. Perhaps one of those is a folder. If I open that folder, I get a new list of files. Perhaps one of those is a folder. I open that, I get a new list of files. You'll notice that the file system matches the stair form exactly. For every new level, I go over and down, resulting in a new sense of hierarchy. And yet, no matter how many thousands and thousands of files I have on my computer, and as we all know, some of our computers have literally millions of files on them, no matter how many levels I descend in this organizational structure, I can still get a sense of the relationship between the very top and 7, 8, 10, 12 levels down, what kinds of things are in that order. So the stairs are a vital organizational structure, a vital kind of hierarchy, because they allow for that infinite display of information, no matter how complex.